to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So just as a reminder for anyone who's wondering why I'm starting the meeting, we are in our school committee organizational meeting where the superintendent calls the meeting to order to allow for the election of a new chair who will then preside over the remainder of the meeting. So let's see, I will entertain a motion to nominate a chairperson. We typically rotate between Upton and Mendon each year. Phil was a chairperson last year from Upton. So if we continue the rotation, it goes to Mendon this year. Typically, it tends to be the vice chairperson. Doesn't have to be, but typically we'll rotate that way. And I know Eric is willing to be the chairperson from the vice chair last year. I believe he had to chair half the meetings last year anyways, so Phil was not around, but I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we nominate Eric Brown for chairperson.
Second. Any discussion?
Are you sure?
I'm sure, I got it.
A few of them have to be roll call votes. This is one of them, so it requires a roll call vote.
Matt Hagan, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Eric Brown, aye.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Jim Forkey, aye.
All right, thank you. We have
All
a new
right, let's
chairperson
flip that up
for next
there.
year. Big reveal. And I now hand it over to you.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Cullen.
You got it.
All right, I'll now entertain a motion to nominate the vice chairperson. Typically, again, to Dr. Cullen's point, we go back and forth between Mendon and Upton, so vice chair would be from Upton. Vicki Ludwigson has shown interest in being vice chair, and kind of based on the rotations. So we want to start off with a motion to nominate Vicki as vice chairperson.
Make a motion to nominate Vicki Ludwigson as the vice chairperson.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, and we'll do another roll call vote. Start down there. Matt Hagan, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Eric Brown, aye.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Jim Forkey, aye.
All right, Vicki's not here, but congratulations. All right, next up, we'll need to do an approval of tonight's agenda of June 5th and the meeting minutes from May 15th.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we'll need a motion to approve the minutes from May 15th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous again. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the reorganization process. The next we need is the secretary. I'll entertain a motion to nominate the secretary.
Make a motion to nominate Jim Forkey as secretary.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Big smile, great. All right, roll call vote. Matt Hagan, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Eric Brown, aye.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Jim Forkey,
There we go. Congratulations, Jim. All right, let's keep it rolling with the assistant treasurer. Sean has been serving this role for a number of years and doing a stellar job at it. So I'd like to make a motion to nominate Sean Nicholson as the assistant treasurer.
second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Matt Hagan, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Eric Brown, aye.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Jim Forkey, aye.
Congrats, Sean. All right, next up is the TAP Library trustee. We'll entertain a motion to nominate the TAP Library trustee. This representative must be from Mendon. It's been held again by Sean for a number of years. He's doing a great job at it. So I'd like to nominate Sean Nicholson as the TAP Library trustee. Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
And for these, I don't think you have to do a roll call for just the officer ones, but
Perfect.
additionally, you don't have to.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Okay, next up, we've got, if I say this right, the Racine Fund representative. I'll entertain a motion to nominate the Racine Fund representative. Previously, this had been Phil. This representative must be from Upton.
And if, I know a question came up, if you don't mind me,
Please.
on what this actually does, and I didn't answer that. But I bet Jay has the answer because he'd be the one coordinating. Do you want to,
Yeah,
do you know what the
So
role is?
the Racine Fund is a trust fund in Upton set up to fund, originally it was school media center type materials. They've expanded it now so that originally it was only supposed to be for Upton students. Now it's for all Mendon-Upton students. We've used it over the last several years to buy iPads, smart boards, different technology type related things. We're allowed to spend the interest every year. And we haven't withdrawn money from it in, like, pre-pandemic was the last time. So it does have a substantial amount ready. And I communicated with Bob Fleming, who's the trust, I don't know, like trust.
Yeah, Upton's finance.
Yeah, and he told me what was there, the process we requested from the board of selectmen, and then they generally will approve it. We have to put it both together. We're gonna work on that probably over the summer, it's something that's long. But that's all it is. I don't know what role the school committee person plays in that, to be honest with you.
I guess at the end of the day, if there's a fund meeting or something like that, we'll have a representative at the table. And
Right.
so, all right. So we need somebody from Upton. We have a motion.
Motion to nominate Vicky.
To get for skipping.
Very well. All right, we have a second?
second.
All right, sounds good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously voted Vicky. Okay, the next one is treasurer. I'll entertain a motion to nominate the treasurer. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Joe Lasso as the treasurer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like who? Thank
Second
you.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Maureen, I might need help with this next one.
Yeah, we're gonna pass on, if we had someone in place that would be continuing, we would just go through and, you know, when we had Kelly for the number of years and do that.
Okay.
We're actually gonna be, Alyssa's finishing out this year, and then we're going to end up posting for that for the next year, so we can come back to that
Okay.
in August after we have the posting. So
Okay.
you can just, I kept it in here just so you're aware, but,
Is she gonna be doing minutes based off of the recording?
yeah, she's doing the recording tonight because her daughter was sick. She hopefully can hear us all, but trying to take some notes here too. We have an additional clerk, I think, that can help, or secretary a little bit, but yeah.
All right, so for the clerk to the school committee, we're gonna hang tight until we post the position. Okay, next up is the Blackstone Valley Educational Consortium representative. I'd like to entertain a motion to nominate the Blackstone Valley Education Consortium representative. This is typically held by the superintendent. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Dr. Maureen Cohen as the representative.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're unanimous, great. Okay, next up, we've got the subcommittees. There are 6 subcommittees that we have as an organization. It's budget, policy, negotiations, the superintendent evaluation, capital planning, and then the golden apple. Maureen sent out a survey to the field where we all got to kind of pick our top choices. Maureen and I chatted, and we filled this in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and read the appointments by the school committee chair, and then what we can do is we will vote after we get through all of them. So for the budget committee, we'd like to appoint Jim, myself, and Sean. For the policy committee, Carrie, Vicki, and Matt. The negotiation subcommittee, myself, Vicki, Sean. and then an alternate of Carrie. There's a lot of meetings with this subcommittee. We want to just make sure we've got proper representation. The Superintendent Evaluation Committee would be Carrie, Vicki, and Matt. And then the Capital Planning Committee would be Matt, Jim, and myself. And then lastly, we've got the Golden Apple Subcommittee, which is usually attended by all school committee members on once or twice a year basis at the end of the year as we go through that process. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointment of the roles that I just read.
Second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right. So real quick, I'd just like to take a quick moment for school committee chair comments. I would just like to congratulate Dr. Cohen for being recognized by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents.
You snuck that in there.
Snuck this right in.
Yeah, I didn't quit anything.
So I'm just gonna read, not the entire press release because everybody will get to read that soon, but I'll give you a little teaser. The Mendon-Upton Regional School District is pleased to announce that the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents has honored Superintendent Dr. Marie Cohen with its President's Award for continuous commitment to its professional development programs. Dr. Cohen has been an integral part of the Assistant Superintendent Program initiatives at Mass for several years, collaborating with other superintendents to increase program opportunities. She's co-leader of the Assistant Superintendent Mentor Program, a growing support network for assistant superintendent mentors and new members. The President's Award is given annually to member superintendents for outstanding service to public education and the association. And presentations were made at the MASS Spring Conference in Marlborough on May 25th. So congratulations, Dr. Cohen. All right. Okay. All right, next up, we've got community comments. For those who are present, if there's anyone who's here for public comments, and folks that are online, the district's policy for public comments asks people to state their name and address and have 3 minutes to speak and limited to speaking once. So we'll start in the room. Do we have any community comments?
So,
Hello.
my name is Dr. Allison Freeman, 15 Whitney, Mendon-Upton.
My children both have medical diagnoses that are recognized as disabilities under ADA. They are both entitled to rights and protection under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. The Mendon-Upton Regional School District has failed to ensure the rights of my children. The district's top administrators are well aware of the district's failures and have been ineffective in ensuring that the rights of children with disabilities are upheld. Further, the district has failed to maintain the privacy of my children. Since August of 2021, my children's personal information has been improperly shared on 3 separate occasions. Administrators are well aware of these systemic issues and have been ineffective in enacting measures to ensure that student privacy is maintained. If I was to use one word to summarize my family's experience with the MURSD, it would be unacceptable. The district has failed to uphold federal laws. I am here tonight to ask you, the school committee, to ensure that the district's administrators are working to address these grievous infractions. I would like a written report of the action steps taken by these administrators to correct these actions and ensure that they do not happen again. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing the steps that will be taken to ensure that the rights and privacy of all children are upheld in the MURSD, so that all of our children can truly be empowered to thrive. And to end on a positive note, I would just like to say congratulations.
Okay, do we have other community comments? Yes. Sam, do you have any? Play multiple roles here. Any comments online?
I see a hand raised from Gina. Allow me one moment.
We're green now.
Green is good.
Sorry, Gina. I will allow you to talk if you would not mind stating your name and your address.
Hi, it's Gina Gerasi, 110 Pine Ave, Upton. I was just commenting that the video was out. Now it's back. That's it, sorry. You hear me? No?
Sam, we can return to community comments if you need a few minutes. If that'd be easier.
Yes. Sorry, Gina. You give me just a moment. Yeah, you would not mind.
No worries. All right, we can roll back. That's great. Okay.
Online, which is accessible. It was the first time we kind of did that from the theater and weren't sure if it all would come through, but it seemed to have come through from what I hear. But it was a beautiful location. It was a resounding success. I have to say, we had ample seating, air conditioning, great visuals of our graduates, more than enough seats. You didn't have to limit any of the seating, comfortable, accessible seating, excellent sound. We stayed dry because it was raining out, and I'm sure I'm missing something else, but our students were the future. And what's interesting, we were talking about other people, how other graduations work in other districts, and what really stands out with ours in comparison is we're so student-centric. Students are leading and guiding and the whole ceremony. And I thought our speakers and our performers, everyone just did an outstanding job. And I want to thank all the support that everyone had, to bring us to that point of having it at the Hanover and being there. But just wanted to highlight that and thank the work of John and Marianne and all of their team and advisors. That takes a lot to put an event like that together and have it work so well. I don't know if anyone has any comments on that you want to add. Some of you were there.
I think Mother Nature was reminding you it was the right decision to
Right?
do that.
I may have ad-libbed and brought that up a few times.
Yeah.
In some ways.
No, I concur with you. It was
Yeah.
really wonderful presentation, not only from the administration, but also from the kids who really participated. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. All right, so
Could we
working
try
on- yeah.
one more time? Gina, would you mind trying to speak one more time?
Can you hear me?
We got you.
I'm sorry. I was just raising my hand because the video and sound went out. So
That's it.
okay.
Thank you,
That's
Gina.
all.
Sorry.
Good comment.
Carry on. Great meeting. All right. See you later.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. I'd like to introduce our new Director of Innovative Learning and Technology. So Mrs. Colleen Terrell, Terrell, sorry. Terrell, I should know that. Come on up. And I'm going to embarrass her and talk about her for a few minutes. And then, we had a really comprehensive search. And we had an outstanding pool of candidates, outstanding group of finalists. And I'm really thrilled to have Colleen here coming into this role. I want to describe some of the things that people said about her, either coming out of focus groups or references. And I'm more than willing to talk about it offline another time too, but she's described, and I know this to be true, consistently as someone who is positive. A lot of people said you were a connector. You're going to get embarrassed probably. A go-getter, excellent at PD. Everyone said PD's her thing, teacher PD, respected by all of her colleagues. A tech integration guru who's someone people call for help. So colleagues in other districts said, if I have a question, I call Colleen. A lifelong learner. She's a leader, a hard worker who isn't afraid to dive into anything. And honestly, everyone, including the superintendent, couldn't stop gushing about how great a colleague and person she is. And I'm sure everyone else who works with her is amazing, but this doesn't say anything about them, but the superintendent said she's the best administrative hire he has made because of the impact she's had in the district that she's been working with, the superintendent, who I also know really well. She comes with a lot of experience and expertise in the ed tech world, having served in similar position for the last 4 years. So that's my spiel. I'm going to read her bio, okay? So she's leaving Seekonk Public Schools after 4 years as the Director of Technology and Digital Learning. Prior to this appointment, she worked as the Director of Instructional Technology as well as elementary and middle school teacher for the Mashpee Public Schools for a total of 19 years. I'm going to pause. A lot of people in the focus groups really liked her experience, the teaching experience that she brings as well. I lost track. Okay, she is local, national, international presenter for numerous conferences where she focuses on educational technology, curriculum, and leadership. This is how I had met her previously. It's through many of the networks over the years with MassQ or MASCD or MASS that we've been presenting at places for years and different, so I had met her previously. She is a member of the MassQ Board of Directors, where she serves as co-chair of the Influence and Advocacy Committee and is co-chair of the Communications Committee. She also serves on the executive board of the Massachusetts Educational Technology Administrators Association. She recently received her Meta, okay, Certified Technology Officer certification. She holds a master's degree in elementary ed, a certificate of advanced graduate studies in ed leadership. She's a mom of two children and resides with her husband in Mashpee and Oxford. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to you if you want to say anything to anyone.
Thank you for embarrassing me.
You're welcome.
Oh, it's lovely. I just want to say thank you so much, most importantly to Dr. Cohen and Dr. Kirkpatrick. They were great through the process, and everyone. I'm really excited about the opportunity. It was wonderful to meet the administrators, teachers, students. The students were exceptional. And I look forward to having that opportunity to work with them. I'm very excited about coming to the district and look forward to getting to know all of you as well. So thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very excited. She's already in contact with Dave Quinn, so transition is beginning.
Excellent.
And they already knew each other, so that works good. All right, so I'm gonna hand it back over to you for new business.
All right, sounds good. New business. Next, we're going to kick off with our Golden Apple Awards. Tonight we'll be honoring 3 recipients of the NURSB Golden Apple Awards. We'll provide a brief overview of the nominations, invite each recipient up to receive their award. Let me go ahead and turn this over to somebody on the committee. To Jim, you might have the notes.
Sure.
All right, ready to go.
We had a lot of high-quality candidates for the Golden Apple Award this year, and we thank everyone who took the time to submit a nomination. We enjoyed hearing about all of the experiences, and it shows just how fortunate we are to have so many exceptional and dedicated staff members in our district. It was difficult to narrow down to just a few nominees, as every story represents a significant impact on the youth of our community. So, to all of our staff in our district, you are the ones that show up every day, give 110%, and make our schools great. So thank you. Without further ado, our first recipient is someone who is a leader as much as a coach. He works with all members of the community, district administration, parents, teachers, students, and alumni. He's always on the lookout for ways to improve access to and efficiency of programs and encouraging students to be part of the solution. His personal commitment to the district of going above and beyond makes him an exceptional Golden Apple nominee and serves as a perfect reminder that learning and growth happens both in and outside of the classroom. Parents marveled how his ability to connect with students aided in their development and commitment, while always finding ways to challenge each student to achieve their best. He successfully engages students across all spectrums of ability to help build confidence, leadership, and physical and mental growth. He has a special way of connecting, whether it be a nickname, joke, or personal anecdote. He has consistently filled the room with energy and enthusiasm. It is an honor to present the first Golden Apple Award tonight to Bill McGinnis.
So just so you know what's in here, the golden apple's in here, and then the face is here.
Oh, okay.
So what we're gonna
No
do,
worries.
we're gonna do,
So I'm just gonna make one comment.
We're gonna do
So
it.
I'm about to hit my 30th anniversary or 30th reunion from graduating. And Mr. McGinnis is the only teacher left from my senior year at Nipmuc. Yeah, there we go. And you know my two boys, of course. Absolutely. So here you go.
Thank you.
Here we go. Congratulations. All right.
Thank you very much.
Sure, sometimes people want to, and I know you always have something to say.
No, that's, first of all, thank you very much. It's very humbling to be here and to win this award. For people who nominated me, I really choked up about it. It's a wonderful gesture and thank you. But to be honest, I'm able to work with people that just make me better. I'm always getting ideas from different colleagues. I'm also get great support from the administration who, if I go with an idea or something, sometimes don't put the cart in front of the horse, but, for the most part, use your energy, use your smarts and do the best you can, which I try to do. I try to put my best foot forward. I have to tell you that, it's been a joy working here I think I'm going on my 30th year. Back at MISCO, even though I started as a high school, but anytime I have the opportunity to work with a kid and try to find out a little bit more about them than just who they are, really about who they're about and where they want to go, I'm going to be there to try to help them. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on. Our second recipient has been nominated for several years in a row. Not only is she a teacher who goes the extra mile for her students, she's also committed to the school district and communities, often rising to the occasion when leadership positions are needed, such as curriculum assistants, volunteers for interview committees, opening up her classrooms for visits, and recently serving on the district's strategic planning committee. The nominations by members of the community say it all. Mix Poxon went above and beyond for my son. She kept him with her for 2 years when we held him back. She knew when he needed an extra push and when he needed a break. His confidence and competence completely changed when he was with Ms. Poxon. He wouldn't be the student he is today. She comes up with new strategies to help. She keeps me informed of progress. She is receptive and listens to my suggestions. But most importantly, I feel like we both share a common goal of wanting my child and all of the other children to have a positive school experience. She's gone above and beyond to make my child, who has special needs, have a year of success. She thought of ways to keep his attention and build his confidence in his second year of first grade by having him help other kids. She called him her first grade expert. For all of these reasons and her commitment to all students thriving, we honor Lauren Poxon with this year's Golden Apple Award.
Absolutely. There you go.
Wait, we gotta do the picture.
Oh, we gotta do one more. All right. There we go.
The official.
Excellent.
Say something.
You were not here 30 years ago.
I was one of Mr. McGinnis's students.
There we go.
Now he has my own children, yes. No, I mean, as Dr. Cohen and Mrs. Garden know, they came into my room to congratulate me, and I kind of pulled my coat up and said, shh, don't tell the kids, please don't say anything to the children. But I'm honestly honored and humbled, and this district is my life. I grew up in this district and fought to get a job here, so I'm honored, and just thank you very much.
Our last recipient is someone who shows up every day and provides a safe and fun learning environment for her class while always giving 110%. She's a voice for the students and a passionate advocate for each and every child. This teacher is known for incorporating dance and song into her classroom to facilitate learning. She supports her students and understands that kids learn differently and can adjust teaching methods to be most effective for an individual student. This teacher is a fantastic communicator and strives to build strong relationships with students and families. She frequently updates families by providing weekly recaps and what lies ahead for the coming week. She's a great active listener, and her authenticity and patience makes children love being in her classroom and brings out the biggest smiles. Her friendly and genuine personality makes her a fantastic teacher and leader whom families and students love to work with. I'm happy to award our final Golden Apple Award to Kristen Louie.
There we go. There we go. Sounds good. Congratulations. All right.
Thank you so
Congrats.
much. Thank you. My journey is similar to those of others in the fact that this was my first and only interview at Mendon-Upton, and I gladly accepted the position at, I think $29,000. I remember being so thrilled to have my own classroom. I'm fortunate enough to have my mentor here. Christine started with me almost 24 years ago. I've been in this district for more than half my life, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity it's presented me, and I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for Mrs. Brown, who is with me every day helping me get the job done. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, everybody. Congratulations. All right. I think we can continue on with new business. We've got field trip requests. The first one is a Spanish exchange field trip for April of 2024. We can ask Mrs. Pike to come up and present.
Well, thank you for having me. I have a lot of information here, but I'll just go quickly through it. I just wanted to share where this idea came from. I'm a 6th grade Spanish immersion teacher. I'm also the Spanish immersion program coordinator. And in the middle school, we see these kids come through from kindergarten to 6th grade is when I work with them, and they're excellent communicators. There's no English in my classroom, they can get the job done, but there is limited opportunity for them to use their second language outside of the classroom. And so I have always seen this vision of how we can get them to really use it in an authentic way. There are some opportunities for travel. There's a trip to Ecuador that I was on. It was an amazing trip. However, it's not language focused. It's a trip that is for getting to know the culture and to do some exploring. It's a fantastic trip. There's not a lot of opportunity for them to use their Spanish unless they really go out of their way to do it. So I envision a trip where it would be language focused so that these kids could use their language in an authentic way with kids their own age, where they could have tours in Spanish, where everything would be in Spanish and kids would be able to really be motivated to use their excellent communication skills. So I was pushed a little bit to think outside of that box and say, how can we make it inclusive to everybody? So I said, well, if we make it inclusive to everybody, then we wouldn't be able to have it be language focused. However, I've been in touch with the person that's organizing this trip. He said, absolutely you can. We could have two groups. We can have tour guides in Spanish, tour guides in English. We can have classes. The group that's organizing this, and I'll talk about it just a little bit, is actually a language institute that also does travel. So we would have some courses that would be introductory level for kids that don't have much Spanish, and for parents also. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then there would be the Spanish immersion classes for kids that are in the Spanish immersion program. So we would make this open to 7th and 8th grade Spanish immersion students, 7th and 8th grade students that are not in the immersion program, and their parents. So why Spanish immersion? I already talked about that. I just really want them to have an opportunity to use their Spanish in a way that will push them to really get to the next level. I also want them to see, my third bullet point is most important, I want them to see their second language as valuable, necessary, and real. Because really they have these language skills, but they're using it in the classroom, and they aren't using it always. They don't have a lot of opportunity to use it in a way that makes it seem necessary, valuable, and real. And this will really give it to them. So why kids that are not in the program? This is a way for them to be, maybe for the first time, getting in contact with people of other cultures. Some of them are learning Spanish at a very introductory level, and this would be a way for them to make those connections and make it, for them, also seem real and useful. And why parents? So I asked my students a while ago, I said, you know, if hypothetically there was a trip to Spain, would you guys want to go? The whole class said yes. And then the next day they came back, my parents want to go. And I said, that's a great idea. And that also kind of fueled my idea of making it open to everybody, because most parents in the Spanish immersion program do not speak Spanish. So they would be having, you know, a group that would be doing all of their tours and all of their classes and all of their activities in Spanish. And then there would be people in English for the parents and those kids who do not speak Spanish. How will we meet everyone's needs? I already said there's going to be the 2 strands, and it will be, the person that I'm coordinating with has already said this is absolutely no problem. Who are we going to travel with? This is, I'm not going to show this video, but there's a promotional video here. It's an internationally recognized language institute called Carlos Quinto, Idiomas Carlos Quinto, but they also do group trips. And it's not a big group. It's not, like a big company like Explorica. So it's very personalized. I mean, he's been so responsive. We've talked about this on and off for the past couple of weeks, and he's been getting back to me with all of these plans. He put an itinerary for me. He's been very good to work with. Okay, where will we stay? So it's different from staying in a hotel. This program uses student residences, which I really like because it makes it more secure. The only people that can stay in these residences are students, but they're very new and modern. I mean, these are pictures from the one that they stayed at, and you have to be a student to stay there. And I think after a certain amount of time, the doors lock, so no one can go in and out after a certain amount of time, at a certain time of day. What do we eat? The residence has a cafeteria on site, but I don't really like the idea of eating at a cafeteria. I mean, if you're going to go to Spain and eat in the cafeteria every meal, that seems sad. So we're going to do a combination of both. So he's going to work in breakfast at the residence, which that's fine, we can do that. But then we're going to have at least 1 meal out per day. And then sometimes for convenience and timing, maybe we'll eat at the cafeteria that's there on the residence. These are the dates and the costs. So it'll be during April vacation, we're going to leave on Thursday night. And then we would come back on Saturday. So we have a day of rest on Sunday before school starts again. The cost of the trip, he estimated it $1,889. Estimated, again, it depends on the number of people we have signed up. Flights to Spain are typically between $800 and $1,100. Depends also, of course. So that would be your total cost there for the 10-day trip. Itinerary, just very quickly, we would be going to Sevilla, which is Andalusia, the southern province of Spain, and we would do some day trips to different places along the southern coast. And we will have different opportunities. So you see there's some workshops, a flamenco workshop and then a cooking class where we'll learn how to make paella. We'll also go to visit the Cathedral of Sevilla. We'll do some restaurants that he recommended. We're going to also visit Córdoba. We're going to go also to Granada and Cádiz. So those will be the other cities that we'll visit. And there's a lot to see in all those places. There'll be a lot of tours. And one of the highlights, in my opinion, is we're going to visit with a school. And so kids will get an opportunity to talk with kids their own age and do some activities with them. The other cool thing is it is during the Feria, which is a famous world famous Feria. It's like a fair celebrating Sevilla, and we'll be there at that time. So we'll be able to see all of that fun stuff while we're there. And then on the 20th, we come home. And that's all I have. So that's our proposal, and hopefully it works out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What was so you said the children can stay in a, hotel that's meant for them?
Yes, it's a student residence. So what it is, it's linked in there, but there's two different options. Either one of those, we're not sure exactly which one, but it's a residence. So in Spain, they have people coming internationally all the time to stay to learn the language. And they oftentimes will do a homestay, or there's also these student residences that are just for students. So it would be, high school kids stay there sometimes, in our case would be middle school. And then also sometimes university students stay there, but you have to have a student ID. You're not allowed to stay there unless you're there for academic purposes.
Where are the parents going to stay?
Same place. They will also be allowed to stay. Yes,
Okay.
parents will be allowed to stay. Good question. All right.
No, that's a really good idea.
All right, thank you.
It sounds very, very complicated.
Complicated.
Yeah, I mean, is it complicated to keep all the parents and all of the non-SI and
No.
the tracks going?
No, I don't think so, because we're going to be doing a lot of walking. So there'll be groups here, and then this will be the tour guide in Spanish. And then, okay, if you're not in Spanish immersion program, you want your tour in English, you'll be with this group here. So it's really just keeping the groups. I don't see it's going to be complicated,
Okay,
but
good.
I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Any questions? All right. We need a motion to approve the trip as outlined by Mrs. Fox.
Motion to approve the trip to Spain.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes. Thank you.
We have a second field trip.
Second field trip
Yeah.
for an Inspired Learning Day.
Yeah, so the teachers wasn't able to attend tonight, and I said I'd be able to present it. So anytime it's that was out of country trip. This is a field trip going over state lines. So basically, on our Inspired Learning Day, it's living like Gatsby. So bring Gatsby and Gilded Age to life with self-guided tours of the Newport mansions that were the summer homes of the rich. One film version of the acclaimed novel was even filmed in part at two of the mansions. And so basically they'll be taking the students who have signed up for this Inspired Learning Day session, because we have all different options and choices for students that will be going to Newport for the day. So we just need approval for that field trip out of state.
Any questions? All right, you have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Living Like Gatsby field trip.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, approved. Thank you. All right, I think next up is our facilities presentation. Here we go. All right, the drum roll. The long-awaited presentation.
I think if you just leave it on the table. Sure. Just screen from here, advance the slides myself. Thank you. So just use the arrow keys. Yes, sir. Right. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name's Kevin Provencher. I'm an architect with Habib and Associates Architects. I'm the Worcester office director, and we've been working with the district to prepare a facilities condition assessment. This is a report that we do to try to get a high level picture of the condition of each of the 4 schools in the district. And the goal is to identify deficiencies or things that we want to address within the next 10-year periods to help us with capital planning. So each one of the 4 schools is included in this report. So, there we go. Okay, so the report, the written version of it looks like this. There's a lot in here. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of data, a lot of photos. And we don't have the time to go through it in the level of detail. So I'll try to keep it brief. I'll try to keep it high level. So Dr. Cohen and Jay Byer both provided some very valuable feedback on the report. But by far, most of our time was spent with Ken Chouanier, who's our director of maintenance. And Ken knows these buildings. If you know Ken, you know that he knows these buildings better than anyone. And is very passionate about what he does, and is also a product of the district and former student. So we've been working with Jay and Ken for many years, and done a number of projects for the district. And you're going to hear the word deficiency a lot from me tonight, but I just want to qualify that by saying that the schools in this district are among the best maintained, I think, of any that we've seen in the Commonwealth. And we've worked with a lot of school districts, and the buildings here are really very, very well maintained. And it's something that you should know. So from our office, I led the effort for H&A. Hillary and James both work with me in Worcester, and they're the ones that really do the heavy lifting. So a little bit about the process of how we put together these reports. As I mentioned, our goal is to describe the current conditions at each of the school building. We want to provide recommendations and estimates to repair or replace deficient building components or systems. And these are things that may not necessarily need to be done now, but some years in the future, we want to be able to plan for that. So the cost estimates that we prepare, the goal is to support the development of a capital plan, and the time scale that we're looking at is 10 years. So a little bit more about the process. We work directly with Ken, touring the facilities. We spent a day at each school with our team and Ken. We make visual observations. We're interviewing Ken. We're taking notes, photographs. We also have access to the original construction drawings that were used to build the buildings. And we had almost everything that we needed there. And then what we do is we create what we call a work item, and that's it's something that needs to be fixed, repaired, addressed, replaced, and so forth. And then we assign that a priority, and I'll speak a little bit more in detail about what those priorities are. We estimate how much of the work needs to get done. Is it a square foot? Is it a square yard? Is it a linear foot? We need to be able to quantify these things in some way. And then we assign unit costs, and I'll show you what those look like in a minute. And then finally, we calculate the total costs for these work items, and then we add something on top of that for what we call soft costs. And soft costs are the design contingencies, the construction contingencies, the administrative costs, the architect and engineering fees, all of the costs that represent the total costs outside of the basic construction costs. And we use a factor of 30% for that. And then finally, we want to consider escalation. So we expect that the cost of materials and construction is going to escalate year after year. We want to make sure that we take that into account so that today's dollars are expressed in dollars in 5 and 10 years and so forth. So I think we've covered most of this. And I'm gonna go to this one first, and I'll come back to the other slide. So we try to break down the assessment into 5 basic categories. The first is the site. So the site is the grounds. It's everything outside of the building. It's the drives, the parking areas, the landscaping, the athletic fields, and so forth. And it also includes any of the underground utilities like, storm drainage and things that we would expect to find underground. The building envelope are the exterior walls, windows, doors, the roof. And interiors is fairly self-explanatory. Mostly what we're looking at on interiors is wear and tear on finishes. But we're also looking at handicapped accessibility, in a lot of our older schools were not designed for the accessibility standards that we have today. These schools, with the exception of NISCO, were done relatively recently and are in many cases already compliant. So it wasn't so much of an issue here for Mendon-Upton. The mechanical category, these are the heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, the plumbing, the sprinklers and fire protection, and electrical is power, lighting, emergency power, fire alarm, communication systems, data, telephone, the computer network, and any of the special systems that you might find in a school, like a clock system, bell system, paging, things like that, and security. Okay, so I said I was going to do this out of order. So I'll go back to this slide. So these are our scope of work categories. Each work item is assigned a scope, and a scope is really just another word for a priority. So the items that we put in scope 1 are the highest priority. These are the things that we want to address as soon as possible, or they're critical items that will continue to deteriorate if they're not addressed in the short term. These are the things that we want to do as soon as we can. There are also things that if they were to fail, if the electrical switch fails and the school is without power, that's downtime. That's a big deal. So something like that would go in scope number 1. And if we allow things to continue to deteriorate and we defer the maintenance, we know that down the road things are going to cost more to repair. Items that we put into scope 2 are not as high priority as scope number 1, but they're things that we should be considering in a longer time period. In the next 2 to 5 years is what we use for scope 2. Scope 1 is now 0 to 2 years. And then scope number 3 is things that we should be looking at in the 5 to 10 year period, and also items that may be triggered for regulatory compliance if we were to do a major renovation at a school and it triggers other anticipated requirements like upgrading a facility for handicapped accessibility, for example. So in the Commonwealth, we have a regulation that says if you spend a certain amount of money in your facility, you're obligated to bring that facility up to the current regulations for handicapped accessibility. The other item that might fall under this category too is fire sprinklers. So we have a mandatory fire sprinkler law here in Massachusetts. Some of our older buildings were built without them. NISCO is one of them. And again, if we were to undertake a substantial renovation of a school like NISCO, we would be obligated to install sprinklers. So this is a sample of what you would see inside the assessment. Each work item has a simple description, which you see in the first cell on the left, and then following from left to right, we determine the quantity, and in this case, this is an example from Clough School. We have a fuel oil tank that's been abandoned underground. We want to remove that. There's one, the quantity is one, there's one of those. The unit cost to remove that, we estimate, is $25,000. So we add that 30% for soft costs on top of that. That brings us up to $32,500. We've assigned it as a scope category, scope number 2. So that's something that we would expect we would want to do in the next 2 to 5 years. And then we just do the arithmetic and we get a total. And when we put everything all together, we look at the schools in the aggregate, we can summarize them like this. So each school is represented on the left-hand side, and the dollar values for each of the scope categories read left to right. And then we total them so that we get a total per school in the right-hand column here. So Clough, the work items in today's dollars are estimated almost 13 million. Memorial is 11.6. Misco Hill, not surprisingly, is the largest number, 25.8 million. And then at Nipmuc, we're looking at 19.1 million. So we total those numbers, and then we apply a cost escalation. So I mentioned earlier that scope 1 is things that we want to do within the next 2 years. And we know within that time period, based on what we're seeing in the industry right now, that cost escalation is still pretty high as a result of the pandemic. It can be as high as 6%, and some of the latest numbers that we got are even higher, a little bit higher than that, which is surprising. We would expected the cost to try to settle down at this point, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So in the short term, 6% escalation, and then in the following years, in the 2 to 10 years, we assign 4% cost escalation. So when the escalation is applied, we get the numbers that result there at the bottom of the screen. And as you can see, the longer that the work is deferred, it gets considerably more expensive once we apply the escalation. So the grand total, if we were to implement every recommendation that is in this report within the next 10 years, it could be as high as $84 million. Now, that's a big number, and it's a lot of money. That doesn't mean that the district will be spending $84 million in the next 10 years. So the goal is to provide enough data, enough information to allow the district to make decisions about, priorities and what things, that we want to address moving forward. So these are the summary tables for each school. The first one is the Clough School. The highest category that we had here was the building envelope, and that's largely because of the roof. The roof is just about approaching the end of its lifespan, and it needs to be replaced at some point soon. And Clough has both a shingle roof and a membrane roof, and both types of roofing would be replaced. And then just some representative images. We have many more in the report. The paving and curbing needs to be replaced. You can see the condition that it's in there in the photo. That's a picture of the membrane roof. In spots where it is leaking, you'll start to see that on the ceiling tiles where the tiles start to get stained. And then the water treatment system, Clough has a well, and there's some issues with the well not pumping the appropriate volume, and with the equipment that treats the water that we should be addressing. Memorial is very similar to Clough. The buildings were built at approximately the same time, 2003, I believe. So the numbers are very similar. At Memorial, within the next 5 years, we should probably consider replacing the boilers. We start looking at that at about 25 years is when boilers are typically looked at, for replacement. We would need to replace the roof here relatively soon, and the design is similar to Memorial. Some images here of the paving, the curbing, the roof. I mentioned the boilers, and fire alarm devices should be updated as well throughout the school. So Misco Hill is where we see most of the work, and I don't think that would be a surprise, to anybody that knows the school. The original school was built in 1960, and there was a major renovation done in 1997, I believe. The school is unsprinklered. It has its original electrical gear and distribution, which it really should be, replaced and upgraded at some point. There's some ongoing upgrading of the emergency lighting, which should continue. And I don't believe that it doesn't have standby power, does it? It doesn't have an emergency source for emergency power. That's something that we want to address too. Misco also has a well, and this is the original well from when the building was constructed in 1960. And the wellhead is actually located inside the mechanical room, and that's really not a great place. I'm not quite sure why it was done that way, but that's the way that it was done. The water also requires treatment, so adjacent to that well, we have a lot of other equipment that is used to soften the water and address some of the chemicals that are coming up. So that's something that certainly could be improved upon, but it would be necessary to drill a new well outside of the building. We really don't want the well to be inside of that room where it could potentially be contaminated by oil leaks, fluids. There's a lot of other equipment in that room that really should not coexist with that well. The playing fields are in rough shape. The grass is pretty worn out. We would want to make sure that we address that. This building is about due for a window replacement. The windows are, just because of their age, are thermally inefficient and drafty. The control system for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning is an old pneumatic system, which they don't age well, become very problematic. It's hard to find people to work on them. It's hard to find replacement parts. And then finally, Nipmuc. See some of the numbers there. We're also looking at a new roof here at Nipmuc. Some of the images, the building also has a pneumatic control system. Carpeting, this is something that we've seen in every school. The carpet just gets worn out, and it's just from use, and it really should be replaced. So just to try to sum things up, I mentioned, when we started is the goal is really to support the budgeting, for a capital plan over a 10-year period, and also to support the facilities people are trying to identify priorities of things that we might want to address. But really the higher goals is we always want to make sure that we're providing the best classroom learning environment that we can, because that's really why that's why we're here. We want to make sure our schools are safe and secure. We want to control the life cycle costs for repair and maintenance, and we want to address obsolete building components and systems when we can. And then finally, if we're able to make upgrades to our building systems, we also have the opportunity to reduce our energy costs. So that's what I had, and happy to take some questions if there are any questions.
always have questions. The first one being, so we were talking about Misco a little bit and mentioned the well that's built into the building. Do we know if drilling a well somewhere else would clean up the water quality issue that exists there today? So it's kind of a.
Yeah. Not likely.
Not until you
Not
drill
likely.
it. Once you drill it, then you test it, you'll find out.
Okay.
But it's likely the same water.
Right, just
Wanted to clarify, make sure we don't know the total cost of that.
We don't, we do have a line item of $1 million in there. And the reason why it's so high is, you know, we need to have a buffer zone around that well, which means is that it could be located quite a distance away from the building, and that's to comply with the DEP regulations. So, you know, we would expect to have, you know, a pump house, we may have to clear some land, we may have to build a service road. There could be a lot of additional costs involved in putting in the well, but really the goal there is to avoid the contamination from the building itself.
So when I'm just looking at the overview numbers, I was surprised, not that I'm very educated about this stuff, but I was very surprised to see all the phase one costs were very much more expensive at what I think of as our newest school. It's very strange to see the roofing is actually more distressed for that school than it is for the other, or that it's necessary in need of sooner repair, I guess is how you put it, right? Than the other three schools, or other two schools.
At Cloughan Memorial, the roofs are 20 years old, which is when we typically start to see failures, and we have seen failures at those schools. They are leaking. Nipmuc is a roof that's probably 26 years, 27 years old. The roof at Misco was replaced in 2012. 14. So that's actually the newest roof. It was replaced.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can speak to the impact, like the most flooding or leakage is in this building. I mean, it pours now in some sections like bucket that we can't believe how much water. So we know, you can see it coming through a lot more than other buildings.
The other thing I noticed right after that was it looks like $3.5 million on EMS systems.
So,
jeez.
So the building management system is a recommendation. It's not something that's absolutely necessary to continue to operate the facility, but there are some operational efficiencies and long-term cost savings if you're able to implement a building management system. The older systems, Nipmuc and Misco Hill, have old electro-pneumatic systems, and if we were to design a new school today, it would have a digital control system, which gives the building operator a lot more flexibility in how they control, you know, the temperature set points and ventilation, so lighting even.
So you have to swap out pneumatics and the building management system together. It has to be.
Yes, you would, and as I say, you can continue to operate the building as is, but you know we want to include things like that in the report so the costs are known. If that's something that the district wanted to consider at some point in the future, you would have some idea of what it would be worth.
Right. And where did you come up with what was included in the estimates for the field refurbishment, I guess, at Misco? That we're all pretty aware of that. So.
Yeah, it's replacing the turf. It's providing a turf irrigation system, and I believe it also includes some night lighting. I believe those fields are
okay.
And you'll see that also at Nipmuc. There's some desire to reconfigure the playing fields out in the back. And it's a fairly large area, but the approach is the same, is that we would replace the turf. If there's a track, we would resurface the track, and we would want to extend power out there, irrigate it. I think we need a well here at Nipmuc to irrigate out in that area, and then provide night lighting as well. Any other questions?
Question more for you, Jay, but how does some of this line up with our current spend on maintenance? And to that point, this doesn't necessarily include any potential state funds that could be available for grants or anything.
Right, so they probably know more than I do, but some of this would qualify under MSBA for reimbursement. I don't know what our percentage rate is anymore. Not all, some of it would. The building maintenance that we spend every year on just general maintenance doesn't really include any of this except fixing it when it doesn't work. So for example, the pneumatic system, what it is little tiny hoses all through the building that air travels through to send signals and control the system. You get a little pinhole leak, you gotta find it. So that's the kind of stuff that we troubleshoot on the maintenance side. But Ken is on top of all that stuff. We do have people that work on all of that. But things like what Sean was asking for, building management, the system here is just completely obsolete. You can't get parts for it, you can't really fix it. So eventually, either this building becomes manually controlled, or we have to have a new system here. I don't even think NISCO has one. They have a pneumatic system, but there's no computer management system that controls it.
I believe just the boilers have an energy management system.
Right.
And I think that's also at Memorial and Clough. And I think those were done under a utility incentive or rebate program some years ago, but they really only manage the boilers themselves. They don't address any of the other systems in the building.
I don't know how much more it would cost, but some of these investments are big enough where we want to actually see the ROI benefit on some of them. So for instance, like on the windows, we got $8 million of windows into Misco Middle School. Now,
Yeah.
I think anyone who's gone into Misco realizes, the windows really should be replaced, especially the ones, in the girls' bathroom that are basically knee high. I'm exaggerating here, but I mean, that's not even appropriate. So there are some things in there that are absolutely, we recognize.
Yeah.
But it would be good to understand what the return on investment is for putting in that kind of money. And that's a big chunk of the whole price tag right there.
It is, and you're absolutely right. Now that exercise goes well beyond the scope of what we've done here, but there is a follow-up exercise that you could do to analyze just what you've described. So if we spend $8 million on windows, and we know that we can lower our energy costs, right? Because now we have a thermal efficiency, we've cut way down on our air leakage, we've resealed the perimeter, we've got those windows really tight and they're well insulated. Well, we're going to expect that our building energy costs are going to drop. And then if you start adding things like LED lighting and replacing some of the other major pieces of equipment with more efficient equipment, maybe we're getting some rebates from our local utility or some incentives. You can throw all that into the mix, and you can do an estimate on your return on investment, and that's absolutely something that you can do. We did not do that for this exercise.
Question mostly because I'm uneducated on the topic, but are modern BMS systems still pneumatic or are they electrical? Okay. That would okay.
Clough and Memorial are electrical. It's just this building was built 5 years earlier. It was done, I don't know why, but it was done pneumatic. This building was built before they invented.
I could have sworn there was for the newer BMS systems. I used to work for Emerson, so I know a little bit about selling BMS systems.
Yeah.
So if you have a BMS that's backward compatible in some ways, I seem to remember there used to be analog to digital converters for the signals coming from old equipment. So if there's any way that we can sort of move this in a phased approach? Is that?
It's possible. I'm certainly not an expert on controls system. It's a bit of a rarefied atmosphere, and a lot of the technology is proprietary. The Johnson Controls and the Honeywells of the world will tell you that it's not. What we really want to have is open platform software, so that whoever we choose to go with, whether it's Johnson, Honeywell, or Siemens, that their software can talk to anything.
Yeah.
And that hasn't always been the case.
So if you were sitting here in our shoes, what would you do next?
Well, that's the hard question. I would look at those scope 1 items and tackle those first, because those are the things that are going to continue to deteriorate and cause problems if they are not addressed. And the usual suspects are the roof, right, which is obvious. If your roof is leaking, you're causing more damage on the inside. So the roof is kind of an easy one. I would look at replacing the boilers. If you have a boiler go down during the heating system, that's a big deal. And then possibly consider replacing windows. I don't know if you're familiar with one of the programs that the MSBA has or had, is the accelerated repair program. And in most cases, they're able to provide funds to do window replacements, boiler replacements, and roofs. Those three things. And there's a good reason why they pick those items, is because they have the most impact. Unfortunately, they've recently suspended that program, and we're not exactly sure why, but it has been stopped, and we do not know if it's going to return. I know that there is a MSBA board meeting coming up. I believe it's in October, and that topic may be on the agenda, and we're hoping that it does return, because it's really provided a lot of benefit to schools throughout.
Just at a high level, what was the program? Are they funding an X percentage of those kind of repairs? Or?
So that was the program that we used to do the roof. We did a limited number of windows at NISCO, and the boilers were placed at NISCO. Actually, the Beaver Associates were the design team for that. And I want to say the reimbursement was around 50%, if I remember correctly, at that time.
Yeah, it's different for every community.
Yeah.
Every community has a different reimbursement rate. And I don't know what the rate is here.
Right. I'm sure it's not 50% anymore. I mean, it's kind of like target share changes every time they want to change the target.
Yeah.
So we've been eyeing, and then there's always that time limit where we said, okay, can we submit to it? And then we look, it used to be, let's say the roof was, the answers were like 25 years or 20 years, and no, they just moved that target to 27, and so that happened. We weren't quite at where we could submit it, and then we were looking to be able to do it, and then they suspended, right?
Right. We did submit inbox boilers maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but at the time it was 25 years, and I think we were at like 22, so it got rejected. Now we just replaced the boilers here at this building last fall.
Last year?
Yeah. Because eventually they had to get replaced with or without a program. We had to replace them. That's what we used our stabilization money for. Right.
And to your point, the MSBA does move the goalposts sometimes, where they'll take the threshold for when they'll consider, your district for a boiler or a roof replacement, and they might start at 20 years, and then next year it's 25, and it's based on priorities and funding, and how much the state said that it's funded by the state sales tax. That's where the money comes from. So depending how the economy is doing in general, influence how much money the MSBA has to give out.
You made a comment about our maintenance being good.
Care to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, Ken and Jay do, a really fantastic job, keeping up with the schools. Ken in particular, I don't recall that I've ever worked with a facilities director who knows the facilities as well as he does and responds as quickly to issues that need to be addressed. He's truly passionate about what he does, and he's a real gift, I think, to the district. And we love working with Ken and Jay. We've done a few projects here in the district, and you guys are great to work with. Sure.
Can I just ask one question? I was reading this earlier today, just quickly. But the fire protection storage tank at Clough, 40,000 gallons. Is that just water?
Yes.
So it's not on. So if it fails, it's not.
Well, then you don't have a sprinkler system.
True, if you can lose that underground. But if it leaks or something like that, it's not suppressive or something like that in the tank.
Now, it's water, but remember that site is serviced by a well, so we're not getting water under pressure from a municipal source. So it's important that tank remain full, because we have issues pumping water from the well. We're not sure why, but it's not pumping at the rate that it should be.
I want to say it only pumps at like 15 gallons a minute. It really should be more than like 40 or 50 gallons a minute. The well is the same well. It's the original well from Clough, from where they put the well in, just went to the school. So you have the portable water tank, which is what we call the yellow submarine in front. You got the 40,000 gallon for the fire suppression. They go through like 3,000 gallons a day, so you have to constantly keep it filled up.
They go through 3,000 gallons a day of water. Oh, okay.
Of potable water, toilets, drinking.
Got it.
That's what we're allowed to use.
And the number for that tank is a big number. We don't know if it's leaking. We just don't know. I mean, it's not. It's kind of beyond the scope of the exercise to do an investigation on each and every component, but we know how much it would cost approximately to replace it if it does fail.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Great. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming to us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Sam, I think you're recording yourself. That's okay. All right. Next on school committee subcommittee updates. I don't know if there's any updates at this time. Differently. Other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of the posted meeting. I don't think so. I don't have anything. We don't have any correspondence. Future agenda items, we're going to get together for our last meeting of the year on June 26th. And we'll see the new strategic plan and hear the end of the year updates at that time. All right. If there's nothing else, I think we can take a motion to adjourn. And we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?